Welcome to the Grampians Wine Podcast. I am your host, Neil Butler. In each episode of the podcast, we speak to a representative of the Grampians winemakers or one of the wineries in the region. We'll learn about the wines, the wineries, and of course, the personalities associated with one of Victoria's leading wine regions. On today's episode, we speak to Andrew Toomey, the owner and viticulturist at Miners Ridge Wines, located in Armstrong. G'day, Andrew.
G'day, Neil. How you going?
Doing very well, thanks, mate. Welcome to the podcast. Let's kick off by learning a little bit about Miners Ridge Wines. Where is it? And we know it's in Armstrong, but you'll need to explain where Armstrong is and the varieties that you produce.
Righto. So Armstrong is a little suburb, I guess, of Ararat. It's not really a suburb. It's a postcode between Ararat and Great Western. Used to be a railway siding back in the day. We're about 10k out of Ararat towards Great Western, and I guess it's a really good location for growing grapes and like farming and stuff like that. So
yep.
Yeah, sort of.
And what varieties?
Well, our main variety we grow is Shiraz, which I guess the Grampians is sort of famous for. We have about between the two vineyards, we've probably got 10 hectares of Shiraz. We've got other varieties, Chardonnay, Riesling, a bit of Tempranillo, a bit of Viognier, and a little bit of Grenache as well. So they're sort of our minor varieties that we produce.
And how long have you been in operation up there at Armstrong?
Well, we bought the property in 1998 and planted in 2000. No, sorry, we planted in 1999 and we finished off in 2000. So we've been here, whatever that works out to be, 23 years, I think.
A number of years. It saves me doing the mathematics. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been sort of living the dream for quite some time. We also started leasing another vineyard, which is about a kilometre away from us in 2000, and don't quote me, 7 years ago, anyhow, whatever that works out to be.
A while ago, yep.
Yeah, and that's where. So my home block is mainly Shiraz, and the other vineyard we have is got a fair bit of Shiraz, but it's got all the other varieties on it that we produce.
Okay.
So yeah, it's got a good spread.
Yeah, absolutely. We've asked this of everybody, but it's interesting to get the opinion. What do you reckon it is about the Grampians wine region that makes it good for growing grapes and making wine?
Oh, there's a lot to do with the climate, I think. It's got a very, I guess, it's got a good spread of climatic conditions throughout the year, like wet spring, cold winter, relatively mild summers in comparison to a lot of other grape growing areas, which means that we get really good quality fruit, long summer nights and stuff like that during the ripening period. Soils are a big part of what we do too. We've got pretty good soil. I guess where we are, we're blessed with water. We have a recycled water system that comes from Ararat, and so do a lot of other vineyards in that area as well. So without that water, we probably wouldn't be here. Actually, it's hit and miss otherwise, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've worked around the place a bit. You've worked in different parts of the country in wine. What is it that brought you back to the Grampians, or brought you to the Grampians, depending upon which way it is?
Well, I suppose when I left school, actually back in 1977, which is really showing my age, my parents moved down to this area to work for Seppelts. Actually, my father got a job with Seppelts on their vineyard. And because I'd just left school, I really didn't have anywhere to go. I was sort of homeless. So I just moved down with them, and that was my introduction to this Great Western area. But I didn't hang around that long, maybe a couple of years, and left and worked on a few other areas around the place, and sort of ended up back here in the mid-90s. Yeah, but I used to come home quite often. I was only 3 or 4 hours from home. Used to come back and, sort of do a bit of work around the place, and it's sort of a nice area to live, really. It's,
So I'm fascinated by the name, Miners Ridge. How did that come about?
Well, it's I guess this area is an old gold mining area. Back in the days, the Chinese sort of were swarming all over this area. And so that's where the miners bit comes in, and we live on a ridge. So
seems sensible then. Bad I asked.
Ridge, it's not that sort of technical. It's
no, fair enough. No, well, it's worth a question, I thought. So so in terms of people coming to the region, obviously wine is an important part of why they would come to it. What are some of the other things that would draw people to the Grampians if you were encouraging some friends and family to come and see you? Apart from obviously.
Well, we have a little, I guess, a little side business as well. We've got a little B&B as well, and it's when we don't have COVID lockdowns and all this other stuff going on. We get quite a few people staying in there, and like 90% of those people go to the Grampians and they go bushwalking, or they go out to the Grampians, and that's very, very popular. And also, I don't know whether you've heard of the Silo Art Trail, I think they call it.
I have heard of the Silo Art Trail. It's really hard to say, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Well, so that's actually becoming increasingly popular as well, and we get quite a few people that go and do that tour. It's probably a 300 or 400k round trip. So they stay here. Not just here, but they stay in the Grampians, and they go for a day trip up to there, up to the silos. What else?
What's the nearest silo to you? Which one? Which would be the closest silo for you?
There's a silo at there's a little town called Rapanyup, which has a silo, and then as you go further up into the sort of the Wimmer and the Mallee, Minyup, I think Sea Lake has silos. It's becoming increasingly popular for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So suppose we could wind the clock forward 5 years to 2026. What does Miners Ridge look like in 5 years' time?
2026. Well, we'll be out of COVID, and we'll be cranking along. We're having a bit of a concerted push to increase our production, I guess, of our wines. So hopefully, if it all works out, we'll have a bit of a name for ourselves, I guess. It's very hard actually getting your name out there, because there's thousands of labels. it's actually a bit of a wide field at the moment. So you've got to convince other people that your wine's better or as good as the next bloke. That's not easy. So we're hopefully going to be cranking along. Making a bit more wine, still growing grapes and selling to local wineries, and just doing stuff.
Well, one of the things we like to do, Andrew, in these conversations, also learn a bit about you, not just about your winery. So, how long have you lived and worked in the region?
Well, I guess in the region, I came back into the region in 1996 it was.
Yep.
I got a job working for the corporate Treasury Wine Estates, or it wasn't that at the time, it was South Corp, I think.
Yep.
And I got a job working in their vineyards, managing their vineyards, and decided that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Too much stuff going on, corporate stuff. So yeah, we bought this property and developed it. Worked in the vineyards for a little bit. I mean, it's not cheap to develop a vineyard, so you have to have outside income.
Yep.
Worked there for a while until we got on top of things and left. Went out on our own. Started up a little a contract business. Where there's quite a few vineyards around this area that aren't big enough to really have a lot of machinery and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where I came in. I had the gear, and so I did that, and I still do that. I still do a lot of contract work around the place. So that's sort of what I'm doing at the moment, growing grapes, contracting. We try to get away every winter for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Just come back from a 2-month trip up to Queensland, and mainly Queensland because that's about all we could go to actually.
Yeah, you're showing off by being able to get to Queensland. There's not many people can get out of the
state. Well, it was a race against it was interesting. It was a race against lockdowns, basically. It's a weird thing. Like you live in Australia, but you still have to have permits to get across borders, which I found very strange.
Yeah, it's a bit confronting, isn't it? So you're going on one of these road trips, and you can only take one case of wine from Miners Ridge Wines. What do you take with you?
Could it be a mixed case or not?
That's what the cheats are doing. Yeah, you can say that if you want to. No, that's fine.
Yeah, it'll be a mixed case because Katrina, my wife, she only drinks white wine, so I guess I'll have to sort of split it 6 and 6. So it would be 6 Shiraz, and it would be 6 Riesling for her. So
okay. So since she's not here, let's suppose we pull one of those bottles of Shiraz out. What's your favourite meal to have with that Shiraz?
Would have to be possibly a bit of roast beef, I'd say. Yeah, it goes pretty well with it.
And so you've got the roast beef, you've got the Shiraz. Where is your favourite place to have that meal and have that wine?
Well, it's funny, but it's probably on my kitchen bench actually, because I tend to eat all my food, or like all my main meals, on the kitchen bench, which is it's quite comfortable, and I can watch a bit of telly and sit there and drink wine and eat food and stuff. So don't
have to worry about driving home afterwards.
No, it's all good. Or I guess the other thing is sitting around a campfire. That's pretty good stuff too. So.
And with the meal and the location and the wine, what music's playing in the background?
Oh, you're showing. I'm going to show my age now. And it's going to be a bit of Neil Young, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, nothing better than a bit of 1972 from the Harvest album with Neil Young. And 3 people, living or dead, that you'd want to share that meal and wine with.
Oh, Neil Young.
Yep.
Of course. Living or dead. Oh God. I don't know. Maybe my old man, who's passed away. He was a pretty cool old dude, so he liked his wine as well. And maybe my kids. I've got a couple. I've got 3 kids, and
I'll let them come in as one. We won't.
Yeah, there was one.
We won't make you choose. Katrina might be a bit upset that she didn't get an invitation, but that's okay.
Well, but I share food and wine with her all the time. So.
Okay, no, fair enough. No, well, I think you dug yourself out of that one. Before we finish, can you just remind us where you are, your cellar door hours, your website, your social media for us?
Righto. Well, we're located in Armstrong, which is 10 k's from Ararat towards Stall. So our we're open by appointment,
Mhm.
which because we're such a small operation, we don't employ anyone. So we're around most of the time, but people can just make an appointment.
Mhm.
We have a website which is www.minersridge, and people can look up on that website and check out all our stuff going on.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's how you get us. So that's
Excellent. Well, Andrew, we've come to the end of the conversation. Thanks for joining us on the Grampians Wine Podcast today.
yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us, Neil.
Good on you, mate.
It's been great.
Thank you. This has been another episode of the Grampians Wine Podcast featuring Andrew Toomey from Miners Ridge Wines. You can subscribe to the podcast by visiting grampianswinepodcast.com.au. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but it will give you the chance to listen to previous episodes and to be reminded whenever we publish another episode. You can watch video versions of the podcast by subscribing to the Grampians Wine YouTube channel. We'll be back soon with another episode. My name is Neil Butler. I look forward to your company then. Cheers.